We live in a world ruled by tyranny, where knowledge is suppressed and ignorance is glorified. A world where propaganda and misinformation travel the airways at the speed of lies. But in the midst of the violence and chaos, a great awakening is taking place. And as the media empires continue to collapse, a new network is forming. A network of truth, a network of courage, a network of awareness. Peace and greetings. You are now tuned into the Network of Awareness podcast radio station, where we examine current events, politics, health, finance, and topics of cultural relevance in America and throughout the world, while bringing you insightful interviews with guests that will both educate and inspire you. And now, your host of the Network of Awareness podcast radio station, ORRA the Informationalist.
Please just tell me what's happening to me in plain English without the mumbo jumbo.
My aura is a network full of awareness and gifts like ORRA, the informationalist.
How you doing? How you doing?
Yes, peace and greetings, brothers and sisters, and all the peoples from around the world. You're now tuned in to the Network of Awareness podcast radio show. I'm your host, owner, and founder, or the informationalist of the Network of Awareness. And we got a great show for you today on this Wisdom Wednesday episode that you'll be getting. And I'm going to bring a brother on by the name of Jason Pike here in just a moment. And before we do that, this particular episode is called A Soldier Against All Odds, which happens to be Jason Pike's story and book, which he narrated, and we're going to get into that. And he's going to share his story. He's an ex-military vet, and he's had a very, very extensive career. So let's learn a little bit about Jason before he comes on. So he's a decorated combat veteran with multiple deployments, lieutenant colonel, served 31 years in the United States Army as both an enlisted and officer, including 9 years overseas in 5 countries. Wow. Jason earned over 30 service awards and badges and survived a wicked amount of military training. His book, A Soldier Against All Odds, compiles all his life events in an inspiring storytelling format with the ups and downs of a life in uniform. His diversity of Army jobs, assignments, and schools from ages 17 to 48 sets his military memoir up differently than most. And Jason's brutal honesty on how he did it while disclosing many sacred secrets about how he survived is unique. And that's one of the reasons why he's on the Network of Awareness, by the way. And with a straightforward account of one of man's journeys, he inspires audiences nationwide at speaking events and shows how to be resilient and how to persevere no matter what disadvantages and life struggles may appear. And as I always say, brothers and sisters, awareness is everything. So Jason is about to bring that awareness. So let's bring him on to the show, and let's give him a nice warm round of applause while we do that. And we'll give him a quick round of applause so we don't waste no time here. So let's bring him on to the show. All right, welcome to the show, Jason, to the Network of Awareness. How you doing today?
I'm doing very well, and thank you for having me.
And by the way, you don't have to speak so close up to the mic. It's fine. You're going to be coming in on the audio pretty good. So glad to have you on the show. Um, let's uh, let's start off with: did you always want to be a soldier as a kid? Did you want to go to the military?
Well, yes, my dad suggested I probably look at the military as an option because I wasn't that good in school. My scores weren't that good. So that was just one of the options I decided I was going to take at the age of 17.
Okay. Do you want to be anything else besides that as a kid? Did you have any aspirations to do something else?
I was in agriculture. I came from a rural background, so I had one foot in agriculture. That's what I studied in college, and I thought I might be in some sort of natural resource job. But I'd always was a reserve soldier, a National Guard soldier, at the same time of going to college. So I had one foot in the military. I had another foot in agriculture, but I decided I'm going to just go full-time military.
Okay. And when you decided to go into the military, did you have to go through boot camp, right? Before you actually start officially? Like you have to go through some training?
Yeah, I was sort of unique because I went to boot camp, basic training, when I was 17. That was between my junior and senior year of high school. I was in high school.
Wow.
I had failed the first grade, and I was a little older than most. Yeah.
Okay. And we're going to talk a lot about these different experiences because I want you to share your story. But real quick, what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to pull up your website here so that the people that are going to be viewing this on YouTube can actually see what we're looking at here. And let me pull that up real quick. And let's share that. Okay. So here we go. All right. So for the people that are going to be watching this on YouTube, you just get, but of course, to all those people that are listening, all of Jason's information is in the description box. So anything you want to learn about him, and then also to get his books as well as his narration audio, it's all going to be in the description box for you to grab and to take a look at and download. So I have been neck deep in shit and almost drowned literally, but I got out. I like that. I like that quote. So from what I understand, just with this quote alone, this is not just one situation that you was neck deep in. You've had several, right? Is that accurate?
Yes, that sort of sums up my life. I would hit bottom and somehow find a way to get out. And yes, and that's one of the famous stories is being neck shit. and I went into a cesspool in South Korea. I was walking at night trying to find a point and basically slipped and went into a pond of shit, went up to my neck, and I couldn't get out. What I did eventually is I caterpillared out slowly from the cesspool, and I was very thankful that I was alive after I got out, and I was very in shock because it was such a horrific event. Now, when I was in the shit, I felt like I'm going to drown in this stuff. I felt that I might die. I felt that I've never had a family. I felt, I don't want to be called Poop and Pike. I don't want that, even if I make it out of there, or Pike dies in poop on the DMZ, which is the military zone. Those things were going through my mind. And when I finally got out, I rolled like a dog in the brush to get off the mass amounts of shit that was stuck to me all over, head to toe. And then I decided I got to save my face somehow. I've got to save my face. I don't want to be embarrassed by this. So I decided to walk to the light. I saw a light out in the woods. It looked like a farmhouse. I know when I was walking to that light to try to get some help, I didn't know if I was walking towards heaven or hell, but I was going there toward the light. went there and knocked on the door of this farmhouse, and a woman came out, spoke Korean, but it was an emergency. So I said, "Annyeonghaseyo, annyeonghaseyo," to do a little bit of Korean language, and mostly it was arm and hand signals. And she told me to strip down butt naked, and I did. And I gave all my clothing and material to a stranger on the front porch. And she motioned that she was going to eventually come find me that next morning. And I walked back about a mile naked and barefoot. And the light was not, the moonlight at that time, it was not too bright. And I was thankful for that, because I didn't want people to see me walking, at night going back to camp naked. And because there's other people going and finding their points on this exercise out in the woods. Made it back to camp and decided to call it a night. The Ajima, or maybe my fairy godmother, she brought those clothes back and gave them to me. And very few, if anybody, found out about it. And so I survived two things. I got out of shit without drowning. And number two, I saved my face. And I failed that event for something else, but I eventually went on to 2 different times to get that. It's a badge. It's called the expert medical badge, but it's a really important badge in the medical world of the U.S. Army. So, but no, that event was failed. I failed it a second time, but I did get it on the third time. So, no, that is a wicked story. Yes.
So, what other stories do you have in regards to something where you would put into some extreme adversity that you had to overcome? Can you recall another story that you could share with the listeners?
Well, yeah. So as a reserve, I've got so many of them. I don't know if anybody's been fired from a job, but a reserve soldier, or a 1 week in a month, we call them weekend warriors. I was a weekend warrior for a little while before I went on full-time duty. And one of my first jobs out of college was I got a job at the U.S. Department of Agriculture as a soil conservationist in Barnwell, South Carolina. And that was a civilian gig, but I was still a reserve soldier. But I was goofing off, driving around another county that I was not assigned to. I ran a stop sign and totaled the car. Someone broadsided me on the driver's side, and I flew to the other side. I walked away without a scratch. I was thankful not to have died. My supervisor took note of it, and he was thankful I didn't die, and I was fired from that job. Went to another job and didn't get along with my supervisor, and I was fired from that job. And then I went on unemployment. Again, I was a reserve soldier, and civilian life, as far as a full-time civilian and the part-time soldier was working out, but not the civilian life. And I went on unemployment, and eventually did make it into active duty service after that. But no, I've had my share of ups and downs, and that's what my book is about, is just a lot of wicked amounts of, hitting rock bottom and getting up and keep moving. So, but it's for anybody, really. I mean, I think, yeah, it is a military type of style. It's a raw style of talking, just like I'm talking now. But no, I've had a whole lot of stories.
So I see that you were diagnosed with an acute learning disability at the age of 7 years old. Can you talk about what that experience was like after you were diagnosed and some of the things you went through?
Yeah, that's definitely throughout the book as a theme of a slow learner. At the time when I was diagnosed, the teacher suggested I go to Emory University just to get some tests done to see what was going on as far as my inability to read well or to understand instructions well. I suffer from it even to this day. The term was called, we thought, dyslexia, but it's not in the documents. But it said, hey, son, my dad said, hey, son, you're going to have to repeat the first grade, but, we're not going to use this as any excuse. Just never give up. Just keep on doing the best you can. And I did. And it sort of affected me. I mean, just graduating from college was like, what the hell? How the hell did you graduate from college? How did you do this? How did you do that? How in the world did someone had a dumbass like you do this? So I had those same types of people asking me or thinking that. And that's what I thought, this would be a good inspirational story to get out. But yes, they didn't put a label. It was more like, we know that there's something wrong with Jason, but we're not going to make an issue out of it. Just we didn't have too many expectations. There was no doubt about that. And, I went ahead. My high school counselor, she said, don't even go to college, just to the SAT scores. But we had talked about I did go to basic training. And once I went to basic training and I went through a confinement facility there because I couldn't understand. Once I got out of basic training, I decided, hell, if I can do this shit, I can go to college. And so against the advice of a lot of good-hearted, logical people, I said, hell with it. I'm going to go to college. I didn't go the traditional route to college. I knew that I went to a junior college and I transferred into a good university. But, the junior college I went to, hell, they would take anybody lame, lazy, or crazy. It didn't matter. I mean, I just walked in, they said, you're in. And it's like, okay, all right. I didn't worry about my SAT scores or my high school scores. And so there are ways around everything. And there are different ways to do things. So that's kind of that. And throughout this story, throughout this book in my life, that would be a struggle. Even to this day, I was trying to change the alarm system and you put batteries in it. And even this microphone I got, is like these things I look at, I'm like a pig looking at a watch. Sometimes I have to take my time or I got to get somebody's help. So there is some truth to being a slow learner and it's being a challenging situation.
Yeah. And your mic sounds good, by the way. You made a good investment there. Let's talk. You mentioned your father. So your father is mentioned in the book. Can you let the listeners know what does your father mean to you in your life? And also there is an experience that you had with a fight that you had with him. And if you could talk about that and how was it and why it happened and what impact it had on you. But before you do that, just if you could let the listeners know what your father means to you, as far as like how you see your father.
Oh, I love my father very much. He's passed away. This book is really, I didn't know how much he had. I didn't understand the impact that he had until after he passed away.
Right.
He taught me through example and through his stories how to survive. He was dirt poor. He was white trash. He was a third class of white. We're talking, everybody in the South was poor, but he was dirt poor. We're talking about, stealing food, tying rags around your feet because you don't have, and just eating out of garden. He was white trash poor, a different type of poor. And he constantly told us about poverty and how you try to get away from poverty. But so he was a storyteller and he would tell about all these stories, and he meant a whole lot to me. And sort of this book is a conversation with him in a way, and him advising me as I go through life, and in the raw Southern type of manner that he had. And of course now I have, but I can reflect back on all these situations as just my dad's upbringing of just never quit. You can get in trouble, and maybe you can have fun getting in trouble, and maybe you can fail, and maybe you can do this and that, and it's all right to have a few girlfriends, and maybe okay. But there was one thing, is like never quit anything. So I remember I was in the 7th grade. We'd moved from Georgia up to South Carolina, and I loved to play football, and he loved football too. And so we did a little league, and then I was in a Bowling Springs High School, 7th grade. And you know what? We didn't have the proper documents. There was something bureaucratically, and they wouldn't let me play. They'd let me practice, but they wouldn't let me play in the games because of some birth certificate that I just didn't have. And so I sat on that damn bench all season long until that document came through. And once that document came through, I only played one game at the very end. And in the first play, I was so excited. I just hauled ass down. I was on the kickoff team, and I hauled ass down, and someone clotheslined me and busted my nose. And my nose was broken, but they put me on my damn bench. And I'm like, I don't care if my nose is broken. I've been waiting all season, and I get to play one night. You're going to put me back on the bench. But my dad said, you're going to sit on that damn bench. I don't care if it's paperwork or what. You're going to do what the coach says and sit on that damn bench. So that's another example of never quit. And I didn't understand that would, be so persistent throughout my life. So yeah, and then I think you talked, another question was about a fight, I think, with my father, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So, my dad was, he grew up, as you know, very, very, very dirt poor poverty. And he always talked about that. But when I come back from basic training, I just turned 18, and I was in high school, and he detected a little bit of badass in me, and he wanted to challenge me. And so he started pushing me around, trying to, pick a fight and whatever. And he got me on the ground, and he flipped me on my back, and then I flipped him back on his back, and I picked him up and body slammed him. That's when I came back from basic training. And when I body slammed him, my dad, who was the baddest of the badasses, he said, no, I don't want no more. I don't want no more. And I was surprised. I was really surprised. I was kind of scared, like maybe I hurt my dad. and then I was also like, I can't believe I actually beat his ass. I don't know if I beat his ass. Maybe he's just playing with me to keep my confidence up. I don't know. But after that, there was no more fights with him. He didn't play around with me anymore like that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's good. It's not good to be body slamming fathers out there. Yeah, but it does happen. So he got to see that that the military was definitely strengthening you. Um, when it comes to the military, there's a lot of things that go on in the military, and it's very regimented, structured, and there's rankings and stuff. And I know from having conversations with other men throughout the past 30 years. One issue that a lot of men have told me that have been in the military is there's always those certain officers that take their position and ranking way too far and are very abusive with it in the way they treat others, fellow soldiers in the military. Did you ever experience anything like that where you had a commanding officer that really was hard on you and was just a prick and exerted their power way too much and took advantage of certain people and belittled them in the process?
I've seen it more with others. So a military officer or even a military sergeant major, or they have power over people's lives. They can be judge, jury, and the executioner if they want to. There is something called toxic leadership that's definitely in the military. And again,
Right.
I owe all my education, all my benefits, and my salaries to the military. But it ain't perfect, and there are bad leaders out there that will abuse. I have seen that. Now, for me directly, I was involved in a federal investigation, which was totally bogus, totally false. Just because I walked on some people's turf, everybody has turf. And so in one of my chapters in the chapter of my book, I described this as basically someone don't like me and they want to have a turf battle. In other words, they want to throw some accusations. So you can send out false accusations. You can say, to someone's this or someone's that. So the accusation that came out with me was subversion and espionage against the U.S. government. Now that's hideous. That's a charge, but they've got
That's pretty serious too.
Very serious. I mean, so if you're a senior guy in the government or senior guy in the military, like I was, and if you've got a bunch of people that don't like you, how do you get rid of that person? Or how do you have that person transferred or just make that person's life miserable. And there are ways to do that. And some terms is called the takedown or the takeout. And you can make up some hazy stuff and just throw it through what's called a hotline. A hotline is like a phone line or some sort of channel where you can anonymously just put the truth that's supposed to be for, you really see some bad things going on, and you can put a hotline out or put some messaging out that you need to go check this out because some things are going on. Maybe someone's stealing stuff and you want to put it out. Maybe someone's doing like sexual behavior and you might want to put it out through an anonymous chat. With me, it was subversion and espionage. And they brought me on charges of doing that shit, which was totally bogus. And it really pissed me off. So what happens was, they had at the time that SAIDA, the subversion and espionage hotline. And so they got criminal investigation division and military intelligence. They told me to go meet my commander up at the top of the hill in Yongsan. It was South Korea, the Dragon Hill and the Dragon Hill up there. And so I went into a room and I saw, civilian clothes people. My commander was in the office being briefed on the situation that I was, going to face the wind to. And I was being briefed on with the CID. We had CID in both offices. At the same time, there's CID and MI. CID is Criminal Investigation Division and MI is Military Intelligence. And they said, this is what we think. We think that Jason is, putting out information or providing foreign nationals secrets of the U.S. government. And when I got through with that briefing, I said, fuck you, motherfuckers. I haven't done a goddamn thing. And I was like, y'all, and the guy, I remember one of the guys, he's in my book. So it's okay. I'm not saying anything bad about him. He was just doing his job. His name was Chris McCormick. He was in charge of, I think it's CID. And he, at the end of that briefing, he put his hand on my shoulder and says, Jason, this is going to be okay. Try not to worry about it. I said, fucking worry about it? Hell, it pisses me off. Yes, I'm going to worry about it. And so, yes, I'm concerned about it. So what I had to do is go get a defense attorney that was on the post, a military defense attorney. And but no, there was that was the most difficult part of the book to write about is I think a lot of you guys or girls or whatever, someone can just make stuff up about you in a group. And that's kind of hurtful, right? What if they do this through government channels and you've got official people trying to check you out of something you didn't do? Oh, by the way, it's supposed to be secret, but the word gets out in the grapevine. So it's just difficult to not let that bother you. And
it sounds like you got gaslighted by the military.
Got gaslighted. Yeah, I got gaslighted. I almost got the hell. And we'll see. A lot of people, when they go to that chapter of the book, they're going to think, well, why can't you just leave? I mean, why can't you just, leave the military or just, why can't you just move to a different job in the military or something? It's just not that easy. It really isn't. Well, first of all, once you got some years in, you pretty much want to stay to your 20. I did think about and try to investigate how to get into another branch, but I kept thinking of my dad and thinking, he would say, just keep on going, keep on going. Talked to my wife and she said, hey, you ain't done stuff. I mean, you ought to just keep going. What you're doing is and the defense attorney says, hey, if they had anything on you, they would hang your ass already, but they don't have it. They're trying to get it. That's their job, is to try to find it. And so, yeah, they had people following me around and making fun. There's just a lot of weird stuff that went on during that time to try to see what they could find. There was nothing, though. There was not a damn thing. So what the hell? My security clearance was challenged and it was given to me. It went through a few more. It was challenged. But, I've been in the Army 20 years. They're going to challenge me just because I probably hit some sort of a red light. And so they wanted to check me out. But my defense attorney says, hey, if you ain't done that, just watch your back. Just keep watching your back. And you haven't done anything or that, but they're going to continue on. So, yeah, it was, to be gaslighted by your own folks. That's pretty heinous. Yeah.
You and I, we we share a lot in common in the sense of being able to excel under pressure and not allowing other people's opinions affect us to where we prove a lot of people wrong, not so much to just prove them wrong, but we know what we're capable of doing and we go out and do it. And throughout this book, you you let the readers know that you there was no quitting you, that you were very resilient, that you persevered through all the odds being against you. You excelled under that pressure of resistance to getting you to succeed and accomplish your goals. Now you've accomplished many of your goals. Where do you find that inspiration? Where is that spot that you dig deep into to overcome the adversity and the naysayers?
Well, the grit, it was a building up of it was a building of strength from the very bottom. Just like maybe your goal is to do 50 push-ups. You may only start out with 5 or 10. Well, and then you build up. In my life, I built up a whole lot of grit from the bottom. I started at the bottom. I went through the basic training and I just kept on adding to my experiences and things of that nature. And so I can always look back maybe at a harder time. I don't know what was harder than this. Was pretty hard. This was a hard time. But I was saying, I said, well, because I never had an investing. I've never had. This was a sucker punch. There's no doubt about it. But I had built up grit in the past, and so I've been through a lot of things. But this one was a tough one. This was a sucker punch. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, and I think just that basic that raising and that all the other things I've done, that sort of helped me out to get through this. You always look back and see what you could have done better, but I did survive. I did survive it. But now, what happened also, I was in so I'm in South Korea on Yongsan Army Base. And so this was a blessing in disguise what happened during this process. I had a job at the 18th MedCom, a medical command there, and there was another job available, which I didn't know about, up at a higher level on the same base, on the same base. So all this shit started stirring up around people around Washington, D.C. and stuff. And so there was a message that came out of Human Resources Command, says, Jason, you will move from that office to this office, to a higher level office on the same garrison. And it pissed a lot of people off because no one even talked to South Korea. You got somebody in D.C. trying to send a message to us saying, I belong to somebody, and you hadn't talked to me, and you ain't talked to my supervisor, you ain't talked to nobody, and you just said this is what's going to happen. And then so I think in hindsight, it just stirred up a bunch of people, and they said, we got to move this guy out of here, out of that office. Now, at the time, I'm pissed off. I was like, well, actually, it was a move up in a way. Definitely got out of that crazy ass office and some stupid people around there, and I moved into a different office. And things started to calm down a little bit, not all the time, but it was a little bit different. But yeah, that was so that I went to a different office on that one over.
Now, you joined the military at the age of 17, so getting to lieutenant colonel was where you finished off at in your career. How, by the way, lieutenant colonel in the Army, how high up is that in the ranking system of the Army branch?
It's a senior executive person. You would think someone officer is in charge of troops, a private at the very bottom, that would be someone that does a lot of the basic menial work of an organization. And then to work yourself up to become an officer, like when you go to ROTC at a college, they come out as a basic second lieutenant. And then I went up about another 5 ranks above that. So I kind of climbed the ladder. It's above mid-level. It's above mid-level management. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, great. And so how did it feel to get to that ranking when you had a lot of naysayers saying that you wasn't going to be able to accomplish any of these things? What was that feeling like?
It felt good. I mean, I felt always blessed at every rank because at every accomplishment, I felt blessed because like I wasn't supposed to do this. It's like, and so and everyone's and then when a lot of these guys, I'm surprised you did this. Even my father is like, damn son, you surprised the hell out of me. It's like, but that was a positive thing. He was like rooting for the underdog. It felt really good, and I just said, man, I want let's. I felt good. I mean, I felt good all the time about that.
Can you name an experience, or can you describe, excuse me, describe an experience that you had in the military that was really, really good, very rewarding for you?
Oh, yeah. Let's see here. I loved so yeah, I would go down to the Philippines and meet all these girls. And I would go from South Korea and I would go from South Korea and I go into the Philippines and I eat their food, their culture and the girls, and they had a lot of expats down there. So we went out and drinking and playing around, and it was fun, and it was so cheap too. And the the islands and things of that nature, I felt really a part of that lifestyle. And I discovered a lot of Asia from South Korea. That was fun. That was sort of an eye opener. It's like, wow, this is pretty cool. And that would be one experience. It's just you could take my education away, but my worldly experiences, 9 years living overseas and even going into other countries, you don't take that away from me because I learned more during that than I did from all my college degrees, so that was fun.
Any really positive experiences in your actual service besides what you just mentioned about, the experience of being overseas and experiencing different cultures? Do you
Yeah,
have
I
any
enjoyed
story to
jumping
share
out.
about the
Yeah, I jumped out of airplanes in the 10th Special Forces Group. I always enjoyed that. I mean, I felt comfortable being an airborne trooper. I was a support role with the 10th Special Forces Group. And so
Oh,
that
wow,
group of
great.
people, that group of guys, those are the snake eaters or those are the Green Berets or whatever. But I was a support role with them, but I got to live with them. I got to jump out of airplanes with them and things of that nature. So I felt, these are the top guys. And so I felt good to be around. I enjoyed their culture. They had a rogue, unconventional way about things. And I just felt, I fit in there really well. A lot of people ask, well, if you had so much fun, and I did, why didn't you stay in there? Well, a lot of them were broken up in their 30s and 40s. I mean, they were broken up, like their backs and things were just hurting because of parachute falls, all the equipment they had to
The
march with,
knees
and
there?
their knees. So yeah, I said, well, I don't want to be broken up when I get older. So I said I'm going to get into the medical service corps branch. So that's what I did.
Okay. And let's talk about something that you experienced that was very traumatic, really bad, and how you dealt with that because you're so resilient. Being in the military could be very stressful. A lot of officers go through, and military, they go through a lot of traumatic experiences, whether it's on the battlefield, off the battlefield, a lot of different things that can happen. Um, and I know this all too well, unfortunately. I had a nephew that was in the military, in the Navy, and when he got out, he committed suicide. And a lot of it had to do with stuff that he experienced in the military. So for you, and that is a big issue in the military, guys coming out and not being able to cope with regular society as a civilian. Um, can you describe a very traumatic incident that you had that was really bad that you have in your book that you can talk about briefly?
Well, the thing with we talked about the federal investigation. That was a big gut. That was a big gut check to me. That was a sucker punch. That punch lasted a while with me. I couldn't talk about it like I'm talking right now, even 2 to 3 years after. Once I hit that, I was sucker punched, and that punch lived with me for a while. And not long after I left Korea, where that investigation was, I went to another assignment, and my father was diagnosed to die in a hospital. He had some medical issues. And so I had my father there that was dying, and I was on his deathbed. That was really, really bad. So I had a 1-2 punch right there. In the process of that, those 2 punches, they said, oh, by the way, you're going to Afghanistan. So that was I wasn't trained for an investigation, and I wasn't trained for my dad's death, but I was trained for war. I'd been prepared for war. And so, but it was just like, I had all the stress built up, and I was like, now I'm going to war. I was, when my dad was dying, and when he eventually did die, I was in the process of getting a unit into Afghanistan, but I would come and check on him and stuff like that. And I did see him die. And then soon after he died, I went off to Afghanistan with 2-3 punches. I'm leaving my wife, my daughter, my dad died, and I still got that damn thing of Korea that I'm pissed off about. And so I was sort of in a state of, I could have mental health. I could have got out of going to war if I just checked into mental health. And I did think about not going to war because I was so eaten up with my dad's death and with that. And I decided, I talked to one of my uncles, and he says, well, you know, if your dad was alive and you tried to get out of a war zone, what would he think about that? And just because of his death. And I knew the answer. My dad would say, son, you just need to go forward. You need to go to war. Don't matter, you know. So I did. I just picked up. I went to go to see some mental health counselor and talk to that. I was crying. I was crying a lot. And so I got on an elliptical and I did this by accident. I said, man, I always like to work out. So I got on an elliptical and I started doing the left, right stuff on, you know, just doing the process of, and I started crying on that machine, and I started laughing on that machine, and I got mad on that machine, and I just allowed my emotions to just pour out of me on the machine. I thought I was going to break that machine. And I would do that every day. Like I would get up in the morning and do that and just process it out. And that helped it out a lot. And that was before I was going to war. And while we were preparing to go to war, I did that to try to get through these feelings. So I could be some sort of because I was going to be a leader in combat, and I didn't want to have all these, you know, me dwelling on all these other stuff. So that was a hard time. It was like a 1-2-3 punch. Yeah.
You know, there's some things that change, and then there's some things that remain the same. And I'm pretty sure that goes with the military, present day, from the military that you knew that you came into to the military that exists now. So is there any advice that you can give the young men and women that are listening to this broadcast that are looking to get into the military or actually just got in? Any sound advice that you can give those people?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, if you just do a few things right, you're better than most. And then you show up at the right time, at the right place, with the right equipment, with the right attitude. So if you just show up at the right place, all right, you're doing more, and be with the right equipment or whatever they told you to bring, do that. Show up with the right attitude, you're going to be way above a lot of people out there. And so that's what I would advise you to do, because that's going to put you over the hump. Now, I showed up at the right place with the right equipment, but I couldn't get my shit together in basic training. And so I had to go to something called a criminal correctional facility. It was sort of it was a scared straight program in 1983. And so that was because I couldn't drinking water through that damn fire hose. It was really difficult for me to process it. And they identified me as a problem, a slow learner. We don't know what's going on with this Private Pike here, but I was not getting it. I was just, maybe my shoes were untied, or maybe there was some stubble on my chin, or maybe my helmet was kind of hanging off. And so they sent me and another guy over to a criminal correctional facility. Not that we did anything criminal. It was more of a way to, let's have another people raise hell at them and get onto them in a different way and see if we could break them out of the Army or whatever. And one person did that left, and I stayed in, but I came back to the platoon, all tore up. I was bleeding. When we were at that facility, we made big rocks and small rocks. We we climbed over hot rocks out in the heat. And so it was a hell of an experience, but it didn't break me. It sort of strengthened me a bit. But no, show up at the right place, right time with the right attitude for the folks. And just try to know that things will get over and never quit. And always try. Even if you're failing, they know you're trying. And so you just keep on. You just keep on to keep on is what it is.
How old were you when you became a father for the first time?
So I became a father around 35. Yeah, 35. I got married around 32, and about a few years after that, I became a father. And my dad was a great father. Yeah, and so
that's a good age to have kids.
Yeah, that was a wonderful experience for me, and just to have a baby and see that. And she moved around with me for the most part, not Afghanistan, but to other assignments. She moved with me and the wife over every place. Yeah, it was wonderful.
So my question for you is, because I have a daughter myself, and I became a father at age 25, which I, think is way too young to have kids. I think you should live life before you get to you did it at a great age, actually. How did having your daughter impact your career or the way you looked at your career in the military? Did it change in any way?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sort of straightens you up a little bit more because you've got somebody looking up at you, going to be doing everything that you're doing, and like, oh, gee, I don't know if I should do this or this or this like I've been doing. I got to do things a little bit different, and so maybe, and because they're going to do everything. So it was a calming and a modifying presence, and then when she got old enough to have friends, and I was a very playful father, and I think kids learn through play, and it's okay to get on the ground and run around and do all that stuff with them because they learn from that. And I enjoyed it. I considered it stress relief. I'd come home from work as a commander over in Korea, and I would just hold her and then play with her and tickle her, chase her. That was a stress relief for me, and also for them, it was fun. And so I was a pretty good father. Yeah.
How was it once you got out the military? Like, how's life been since you got out the military? What have you, because now that you're retired, I'm pretty sure you got a nice, I don't know if they call it pensions in the military, but I know that after serving for as long as you have, the military does give you a substantial amount of money for your service. So how has being retired from the military been for you? Because obviously you're still working. You wrote a book, so you're still active. You're not like one of these guys like, I'm just retired, I'm not going to do anything with my life. So what has life been like post soldier military guy and now being a civilian back into the world?
Yeah, so we do have a retirement. We have a matter of fact, you'll have two retirements if you stay till 20. You get, well, not what I'm saying is you got the military retirement. That's more like a pension. You got free. Well, it's very, very discounted health care, not only for you, but your family members. It's a very, very tri-care. So you got, and also I get another paycheck called the VA, the Veterans Administration. Since I was a bit banged up and things, I had some injuries and so forth. They go ahead, and so I have two paychecks that come out. And when I got out, I got with some veterans groups and veterans events. I did that for a little while. Then I worked a little bit with the Centers for Disease Control as a remote worker. And then I stopped that because I wanted to produce this book. And now I've got that book out. So overall, it's been good. I mean, financially, yeah, I'm fine on that one. And I think it's worth it. I think for a lot of folks, they could probably go in and do their 20 or what have you and have very discounted or great medical, and then you'll have a pension or you'll have a retirement. And oh, by the way, a lot of folks don't understand you may have something called a veterans disability, and that a disability with the veterans group doesn't mean that you're disabled. I don't even like that term disability. They ought to change it, because in the veterans disability system, I mean, having hypertension is a disability, but not disability to work. I mean, having toenail fungus is considered a disability, but it's not, you still work. I mean, so, and of course, you've got those serious ones, you got people's limbs and things like that. But just because you get a VA disability don't mean you can't work or do things, but you can. So overall, it's been pretty good. Overall, yeah, it's been a pretty good transition. Was a little difficult. I come out, I'm used to going from this place to that place and, climbing that ladder. And so now it's all stopped and you got to figure out, okay, well, what am I going to do? What can I help other people? What job maybe I get? And you had to go through that. Now with me, when I got out, I was burned. I was burned out. I needed to go to counseling. I needed to take a breather because all the events I had talked about were still hanging in my soul. And I needed to somehow get some therapy. And I did. And then from there, I went to work for CDC and then to write this book. And then that's kind of how that worked when I got out.
So you worked for the CDC, Center of Disease and Control?
I did for about 2.5 years as a remote worker. I went on a few deployments, COVID stuff. I went to various airports to do COVID screening. I went down to Fort Bliss, Texas, El Paso, Texas, because they had a bunch of unaccompanied minors coming across. We want to screen them because, they come in with diseases. We need to make sure they got, if they want a COVID shot, they give them all the various diseases and parasites that they bring in. We need to clean them up before we send them out into other areas around the country. But I did that for a little while. I was in the global rapid reaction team with the CDC. And I said, I'll stop that. Just did it for 2.5 years. And yes, I was
Right.
CDC.
Now, it's said that everybody that comes out of the military, even though they may not be diagnosed with it, have a form of PTSD. It kind of comes with the territory. And I'm only assuming here with the amount of years that you served that you have some form of PTSD. And my question to you is when if you come out with PTSD, how do you cope with that? Because I know it's not something to take lightly, and it's something that stays with you for life. So all you could do is manage it. It never really goes away completely. Do you mind talking about that? If you don't, it's fine.
I'm fine. I can talk about it. I can talk
Okay.
about my PTSD and how it affected me. Post-traumatic stress syndrome, or some people call it post-traumatic growth. Like you said, a lot of folks will come out of it. But I think that if you've had a interesting life, or a police officer, a fireman, even a biker, or whoever you are, at some point, things, life does, take a beating on people. And in the military, we look at that and we call it post-traumatic. But I think one doctor I talked to, he says, if you live life long enough, you'll eventually get PTSD just because of life. But with me, it was a buildup of events. A lot of folks thought probably Afghanistan did it, but I would disagree. I would say it was that 1-2 punch. It was that federal investigation, then my dad's death, and then Afghanistan. Now, Afghanistan, that just solidified the PTSD. It wasn't a lot of things that happened in Afghanistan. I mean, yes. I mean, like I said, I was trained for war. I was trained to go to war. But yeah, in Afghanistan, there were indirect fires from mortars. Saw a Humvee got blown up by an improvised explosive device. But those were things that we thought through and we planned for and we worked through. My focus in Afghanistan and war was just one foot in front of the other. And I am not going to any funerals. I am not going to go observe the Humvee that blew up and all that. I'm not even going to go there. I'm just doing what I need to do and take care of my troops and then get the hell out of there. But with me, with PTSD, it was more of a culmination of 1, 2, 3. If you took those other things away, like my dad's death and that federal investigation, and I just went to Afghanistan, this is only speculation, I don't think I'm going to have that much PTSD. I don't think I would have it, or very little of it. When I came home, and my wife says, "You changed." I said, oh, okay. So you changed, you're different. And I guess I was. So a lot of people will get diagnosed from their family members or other people saying, hey, you might want to check something out. You might want to check some things out. And yeah, what you do is it's not one silver bullet that's going to knock out PTSD, or there's not one silver bullet that's going to manage PTSD. You may have to try different methods of how to manage it. I did experiment with the drugs that they give you. I don't like them. I want to stay away from that stuff. So I'm more into natural therapy, working out. I go to the sauna, and then just this morning, I went to the sauna, and then I went to the ice bath. They have this facility where I can just go from hot to cold, but whatever works. And you may have to experiment with different things that help you out. And you might like to go walking a dog, or maybe you want to have a job taking care of animals, because animals are therapy, and you could get your money, and then you could get therapy, and then you could take care of dogs or walk dogs or whatever. So you have different ways of how to cope and how to manage it. So, but a lot of folks think, like in life, you got a problem, PTSD. They just think, well, this is what they say, and that's what you're supposed to do. Not necessarily. It may not work. You may have to go another route. You may have to try something else out. I mean, you like fruits and vegetables. Well, I prefer watermelon, but you might like something else. So you have to figure out what you like.
Yeah. Some people get therapy dogs. I mean, my dog has been therapy for me, for my PTSD. So my dog's been a tremendous help for me. Let's talk. Let's go back to the book here. Let me pull it up. I'm gonna read something here, and then I want to hear from your words as well. All right. So, make sure I pull this up here. I'm gonna pull it up on the big screen. There we go. So this is for those that are viewing and listening. We have Jason's book, A Soldier Against All Odds, here, and I am going to read what we have here on the site. And just give me a second here while I pull this up. Okay, so why read the book? I wanted to share my story with others who were experiencing trauma in their own lives. Ultimately, I share my story to spread hope, encouragement to anyone going through difficult times. I hope A Soldier Against All Odds helps you find peace in knowing that you are strong enough to get through whatever it is you are going through, and you are not alone. So, do you want to expound on that? Why you wrote this book, and what you want people that do get to read this book, what you would like for them to get out of it?
Yeah. And going back to the various stories and scenarios that you'll see that might make most people just quit in life, or quit the army, or quit whatever. I have a series of raw personal accounts where I've screwed up, and we're also embarrassed that things happened. But then I've had things like that investigation that was not my fault. So yeah, it's really a inspirational account of what you can do. And I mean, somebody that says, "Yeah, you can't do this, you're a dumbass." Well, I don't know. I mean, what I'm saying is, like, there's always a way around things, and a way of overcoming things. I don't look as if someone says that you have to do this to solve the problem, to me, that's just an option. If they say, if there's a rule or a regulation, I thought there's also ways around things. And a lot of people didn't think I was learning to. A lot of people, I learned how to get around it, though. In some places it's difficult more than others. So, but if you just work with it, and I mean, just getting through. I have a chapter in the book called it's where there's a will, there's a way. Or no, where there's a will, there's an A, as in the A of a letter grade A. I found ways just to go to college and how to, go through various steps of learning some of the stuff that was difficult for me. Index cards, recordings, sitting in front of the classroom, just the various little things, eating while you're studying. So there's always ways around. Take a lower load. I mean, so you'll find creativity a lot of how I handled situations and adversity. And so I thought it would be a great story of inspiration and hope to explain a lot of these accounts of what I did in my life. And going back, I mean, everybody was like, wow, you got a story. Wow, look at this. Wow, where did Jason go? What's he doing? Like, oh, is he gonna get in trouble with the law again, or is actually he gonna do something good or whatever? So I thought everyone was like thinking that or asking me these things, and I thought, there's a great story here, and that's what I want to put them all together.
Well, I think that your story can help a lot of people, whether they are in the military, looking to get into military, or have nothing to do with the military, just how to deal with life and to persevere through all odds and through adversity. And you have a long history of doing that on many different levels. So, with that being said, I want to wrap things up here. And what I would like for you to do, Jason, is, and you can take as long as you want, but what I want you to do is leave the listeners with any final comments in conclusion to this episode that you would want to tell them before we end things. So the floor is yours.
Okay, we talked about the book a little bit, about all these crazy, wild experience, bizarre. I mean, bizarre. Some things are just bizarre that happen, but I want you to say this book, now I've got it in the first page of the testimony. This damn book nearly killed me. It literally did. Okay. In February of 2021, I went to the ICU, the intensive care unit at the Stone Oak Methodist Hospital here in San Antonio, Texas, because of blood clots that had formed in my lungs and my legs. It was writing this damn book that did it. Because everybody, did you smoke? Do you smoke? Hell, I don't smoke. I drank, but I don't smoke. Have you ever smoked? No. And they wonder well, it really was this damn book, because I got so stressed out looking at all this crap that I did over the 31 years. And I was sitting for long hours, which I normally do. Like I broke away from that exercise because I was just focused on this book and trying to, but then at the same time, I was stirring up all these memories and I was going through a lot of stress. But the sitting down for the long period of time put me in the hospital. And oh, by the way, I got pneumonia as well because Snowmageddon. But no, and I went in there and they said, you're pretty much gonna die. So these physicians, these doctors, they got rules. I mean, they got all these rules. They can't do this, they can't do that. Well, this one guy, he was a physician's assistant. He came beside my bed and privately told me, he says, you're pretty much going to die, and it's not going to be a good death. So you really want to sign a DNR, which is a do not resuscitate. Well, what happened was I went into the ICU, intensive care unit, and I was in there for 3 days. And then I got transferred to another hospital. I got better. They gave me heparin. They gave me some blood thinners. They gave me some antibiotics for the pneumonia. And I started healing up. But during that time, the obituary, we talked about end of life and things of that nature. I mean, when you've got blood clots that are in your lungs and your legs and you got pneumonia, that's not a good thing. And so we did, end of life. It was during the COVID. I didn't have COVID, but it was during that time. So I could only have one person in. So I told my wife, I says, you know what to do. We know where the grave's at. You know where the obituary, where I want it and all that stuff. So, but my body and I told my writer that was helping me, I says, get this damn book published. And I says, I'm going to die and I want you to continue on this damn thing. And so, but that didn't happen, of course. And my body got better. It started healing. And it's just this process that occurred just 2 years ago. All right. So that's kind of the story of my life. My body came back. And eventually I went out of the hospital. It was I was in there for 5 days, 3 days in the ICU. So I just want you to know, I put my damn life, I almost put my damn life on the line for this damn book. So that's what I want y'all to read and just or listen to on Audible, and that's about it.
All right. Well, thank you for your testimony and for your time today. Greatly appreciate it. I'm sure that a lot of people that are going to listen to this are going to get a lot of great substance that they could use in their own personal lives based on the information you've shared here. And for those that are listening, like I mentioned earlier, all of Jason's information on how to get the book, to get to his website, also learn a little bit more about him and his days in the military and the army, and are all going to be in the description page of this episode across the board. So whether you're watching it on YouTube or if you're listening to it on any of your favorite podcasting listening apps, that information is there. So with that being said, brothers and sisters, I want to thank you for tuning in to this Wisdom Wednesday show called Against All Odds, which is the name of the episode, but I got the inspiration from the book itself called Against All Odds by Jason Pike. Definitely get it. And like he said, he narrated it as well. So if you're the person who likes to listen to it while you're driving, listen to books. It's on Audible as well. So let's close things out here. And once again, Jason, thank you for coming on to the show. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So just stick around for one moment. I'll be right back. All right. So that was Jason Pike. And let's play some of this theme music to exit with. So I want to thank everybody that tuned into this show, and we got a lot more great interviews coming up and great episodes on the narcissism series, and also Conspiracy is Not a Theory series, and many more. So I hope that you got great edification from this episode. I know I did, from Jason's story and experiences. And brothers and sisters, when you live in the present, there is always an opportunity for a new beginning. And don't look for the light at the end of the tunnel, because the light is and always will be within you. So light up the tunnel and find your way through the darkness. This is all the information saying peace, love, and light, and all praises to the Most High. Shalom, brothers and sisters.